When dynasties are mentioned in sports, the San Antonio Spurs have to be included in the discussion. 5 championships and 22 straight playoff appearances, the Spurs have had a great run, but I'm afraid it's coming to an end. What's going on, everybody? It's JellyJNBA back with another video, and in today's video, I'm going to be discussing the rebuild that the San Antonio Spurs will likely endure after their 2-decade-long dominance. But before we get into today's video, I want to thank you guys for your continued support on this channel, and if you are new here and enjoy NBA content, consider subscribing. I upload every single day. Like I've done before in my previous rebuild videos, let me first discuss how the Spurs got to this point in their timeline, particularly in the last few seasons. After the Spurs' iconic Big Three in Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Tim Duncan slowly declined towards the end of their Hall of Fame careers, the Spurs still looked like a dangerous team, with Kawhi Leonard slowly becoming a superstar. But the relationship between Kawhi and the Spurs slowly became unpleasant. If we are being completely honest, if there is one single play in Spurs history that altered the direction of the franchise, it's this one right here. This play led to the eventual downfall between Kawhi and the Spurs organization. And after the Spurs were eliminated in 4 short games after Kawhi's injury, the roller coaster ride began. Kawhi had officially suffered a right quadriceps injury that continued to bother him into the 2017-2018 season. Kawhi only played 9 games that year, and after Adrian Wojnarowski reported that this injury, quote, caused a discord between Leonard and the Spurs, Kawhi decided to not return to the active roster after he recovered from his injury and demanded a trade. Now, I'm all for player movement and usually aren't the type to get upset by players wanting out of a specific situation. But this one just really bothered me because it was almost like Kawhi just gave up on the Spurs. I get it was a super unfortunate injury, but I didn't believe the rumors that the Spurs were rushing him back from injury, because that's just not the Spurs at all. You're trying to tell me that the team that basically invented load management was attempting to rush back their star player less than 10 games into the next season? I just don't think so. Regardless of what the true motive was behind Kawhi demanding a trade away from San Antonio, everybody knows the dominoes that fell after it. Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard were sent to Toronto in exchange for Jakob Poeltl, DeMar DeRozan, and a protected first-round pick in 2019 that turned out to be Keldon Johnson. Now, at the time of this trade, people thought that this deal wasn't too bad for either team. The Spurs got an all-star level talent in DeMar DeRozan and a future first-round pick, while the Raptors got to roll the dice on a player who was a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year winner and had a Finals MVP at age 27. Looking back at this trade less than 3 years later, it is probably one of the worst trades in recent memory. But you really can't knock the Spurs too much here, because they had zero leverage in this deal, because everybody around the league knew that Kawhi wanted out, so they lowballed their offers, which is why the Spurs only got DeRozan in return. Fast forward almost 2 seasons from that trade, and the Spurs are on the outside looking in for the first time in a while. DeRozan has fell off from the player he was in Toronto, and although the team still has LaMarcus Aldridge and a nice mix of veterans and young guys, the chance of a rebuild looks very good. Not to mention, their legendary head coach, who is arguably the best coach the game has ever seen, already has his foot halfway out the door to retirement. San Antonio is in some trouble, but that's okay because JellyJNBA is here to fix things. First, let's take a look at the team's contract situation and future trade assets. 4 out of the 5 of their largest contracts will be off the books after next season: DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay, and Patty Mills. DeJounte Murray is the only other player on the roster that is due more than $10 million after 2021. Now, San Antonio doesn't usually look to spend lots of money in free agency, except when they signed Aldridge in 2016, but the team has been known for signing very solid free agents that have had huge impacts on their championship teams, a la Bruce Bowen and Danny Green. Trade asset wise though, I don't think the Spurs have much at all. LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan, and DeJounte Murray are probably the team's 3 best trade assets, but even then, you aren't going to get an outstanding offer for any of them. I do think San Antonio should look to trade both Aldridge and DeRozan before they play out the rest of their contracts though and walk for nothing. One possible trade that I cooked up for DeMar DeRozan involved the Orlando Magic. Now obviously DeRozan is ineligible to be traded this offseason due to his player option, but if he is to buy into that player option this offseason, this trade would be acceptable as early as next season. This trade would send DeMar DeRozan and Bryn Forbes to Orlando in exchange for Aaron Gordon and Mo Bamba. Now this gives the Spurs one of two things. In Aaron Gordon, it gives them a one-year experiment. Gordon is under contract until the 2021-2022 season, so the Spurs could play him for a year, and if he isn't what they expected or he didn't improve, they can let him walk. Now the more interesting part of this trade comes in the form of 7-foot big man Mo Bamba. Bamba has been a disappointment through his first 2 seasons in Orlando, so I could see the team moving on from him. But I believe if this trade is to happen, it gives the Spurs something they haven't had in a very long time, that being a future at the center position. As for Aldridge though, who I think is the less likely of the two to be traded, if the Spurs can get a decent young player or a future draft pick for him, I view it as a win. By shipping either DeRozan or Aldridge, or in some cases both of them, this team commits to rebuilding around the young guys on this roster like DeJounte Murray and Lonnie Walker and gears themselves for the future. As far as the draft goes, the Spurs don't look to have a high draft pick this season, and although they could potentially have a very high pick next season, even then I doubt the team would intentionally tank. If the team fails to make the playoffs this season though and lands in the lottery, one player I could see them targeting is UNC point guard Cole Anthony. Now I know the Spurs have a very solid young point guard in DeJounte Murray, but I believe Anthony would be a great fit in San Antonio because of his elite scoring ability and versatility to play both guard positions. This team still needs a legitimate offensive threat to build around, and at their draft position this year, Cole Anthony fits just that. As for losing Pop in the next few seasons, that's just something the Spurs will have to deal with when the time comes. The franchise is very well run and already have a great pedigree of assistant coaches that are either still coaching under Pop or have gone on to become great head coaches on their own, like Brett Brown and Mike Budenholzer. It may be weird to not see the Spurs in the postseason for the next few years, especially with how competitive the Western Conference has become. But I have the utmost faith in this organization to rebuild this team and return to consistency once again. And that's the video, guys. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, as well as let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about the Spurs' future. Do you believe they will trade DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, or do you believe they will keep them? And I hope to see you guys in the next one.